Hi, I'm Norman A. Hood, financial advisor and host of the Exit Plan Show. I interview America's top advisors like today's guest, John F. Dini of MPN, to help business owners enjoy more personal freedom, grow their companies faster, and transition ownership seamlessly when the time comes. Welcome to the show, John.
Thanks for having me, Norm.
Nice to meet you. You and I are both BEI members. We met out in Denver, I think, last year.
Yes, we did.
And I heard your presentation, which was very enlightening.
Thank you.
I'm going to start out today, just have you tell our audience a little bit about your education, your background, and your career path up till now.
The career path is the interesting one.
Okay.
Say people refer to me as a serial entrepreneur. I prefer the term chronically unemployable.
Okay.
I have never had a mentor. I have never had a career plan. So I became a generalist because I took the jobs that were available that paid enough money to keep my family in food and shelter.
Okay.
So I wandered from the auto parts business, wound up turning around a company on the West Coast that was in the import-export trade. Left there and went into auto parts manufacturing. Another turnaround situation. Left there because I had some partners that were not all that ethical, and wound up in a healthcare company. I was brought in by our accounting firm to help turn them around. From there, went into consulting, started working with small businesses, particularly started running peer groups to get off the road about 18 years ago, and have been working with small business owners one-on-one ever since. And that kind of naturally led me into exit planning, although it may not seem that logical. But did business brokerage for a while. Didn't like that so much because it can get very adversarial. You have a terrified first-time buyer and a terrified first-time seller that have no trust for each other whatsoever. And when I ran into BEI and when I ran into John Brown and I saw some of the work he was doing in helping baby boomer owners transition their companies, especially to employees and family, I became very, very excited and decided that's what I really wanted to specialize in. So I gave up brokerage and certified as a BEI advisor.
Okay. Well, that's one thing we have in common, John Brown. He's told me a little bit about you, and I think he knows you pretty well. How would the people that know you the best, though, like your close friends, family, how do you think they would describe you? Interesting. That's how they would describe me. Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with the book Strengths Finders by the Gallup organization.
Yes, in fact, I've done that.
Have you?
I know my 5 strengths.
My number one strength, which I didn't even know was a strength until I used the book, is input.
Oh.
I am a collector and disseminator of information.
Interesting.
So I always have something neat to tell somebody, and somebody always has something for me to learn, and that's what I live for.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I think a lot of the Gallup. In fact, I think down the road, one of the ladies I'm interviewing, she's a coach that uses the Gallup score. Yeah,
it's a great thing. We encourage a lot of our clients to use it with their employees because it's such a positive feedback from compared to any other assessment where you have good and bad. The employees love it because you only have good.
Right, yeah, that's what I like about it. As far as MPN, what does MPN do?
We work with the CEOs and owners of owner-managed businesses. And I say that particularly because we don't work with absentee owners, and we don't work with hired CEOs. Okay. We work strictly with the person who has a personal stake in the business, who owns the majority and makes all the decisions. Okay. And we typically work here in San Antonio in our peer advisory and coaching practice with about 100 businesses at any given time. Okay. And of course, in exit planning, you're certainly dealing with that exact same clientele. Right,
okay. As far as other firms that do similar things, what do you think differentiates you from them?
We are operationally oriented. Okay. I have a degree in accounting. Doesn't mean I like it. I don't do financial planning. I deliberately don't carry a Series 6 or a Series 7 license. I don't have no desire to do wealth management or sell insurance. We look at the company, the management team, customer concentration, systems, processes, and our focus is really on the very front end.
Okay.
Is this company capable of delivering what you want out of life?
Okay.
And whether we do that in a coaching or in an exit advisory role, my work doesn't stop. I mean, as you know, many of us work in teams, and we have lots of attorneys and accountants and wealth managers that we work with, but they're all kind of downstream, in my opinion. If the company's not going to get you there, you can do all the planning in the world.
Right.
And it's not going to get you there.
Right. True. Okay. Good point. As far as you personally, is there any one thing you like to do best in your work?
Coach. I really do, whether it's with the owner or in cases where we're doing an employee transition and I'm working with the employees. I have a reputation for being direct. When I tell owners I'll have two conversations with your key employees if you're thinking of an internal transfer. The first is, do you want to be an owner? And I let them have that day or so of fantasy. Well, sure, I want to come and go as I please. I want to make all the money I choose to write myself a check for, and I don't want to do any more work that I don't like. I'll tell everybody else to do that. And then once I've let them have a day or two to wallow in that fantasy, I come back and I say, now, are you willing to swear your children into indentured servitude, owe everything to the bank, and live with the trickle-up theory, which means everybody else gets paid, and if there's any left over, that's when you start looking at a check.
Does that change their perspective?
A lot of times, that's the end of the transition conversation. Yeah.
So you've been doing this a long time. I think I read in one of your books, or maybe you heard this at BEI, you have several thousand hours in front of business owners coaching. I mean, it's over 10,000, I think. Sure.
Yeah, it's quite a bit more than that now. And that, of course, comes from Malcolm Gladwell's book about outliers. And when I read it, it drove me to sit down and look at all my monthly coaching and meetings and add it up, and I hit the number.
So where do you get the energy to keep doing that? That's a lot of, you've done this a lot. I mean, it
feeds me. We do behavioral analysis of all the people we work with just to see what kind of drives them. And as a good friend of mine who also does a lot of that work says, people either sap you or zap you. I'm one that they zap. I will get up in the morning and may not feel all that well and may be dragging a bit or have had a very long day the day before. And whether I'm sitting in a peer group with a bunch of business owners or whether I'm coaching a one-on-one, that goes away the second we start talking. I'll be exhausted again when I walk out.
Right.
But while I'm there, I'm up and I love it.
Okay, great. Last question. Business owners watch the Exit Plan show for one of 3 or 4 reasons. They want to enjoy a little more personal freedom, maybe spend more time away from the business. They may want to grow their company faster. They may want to transition ownership either through a third-party sale or to a family member or to a key employee group. And then more recently, we run into business owners that are trying to redefine their purpose. They've either sold their company or transferred it, and now they're trying to figure out what next. Or sometimes that holds them back. They're not sure what's going to come next, so they drag their feet on the transition plan. If you could give an owner one tip in any of those 4 areas, what would it be?
In the area of purpose, and I'm sure you're familiar with Bob Buford.
Heard the name.
And Halftime. The best piece of advice I've seen come out of his organization, and I've got to give attribution for it because I didn't make it up, is if you get involved with giving back, as a successful business owner, you know your strengths and weaknesses well enough to choose how you give back. And the worst mistake you can make, and where they fail so often to find the fulfillment they're looking for, is in letting the charitable organization or the cause dictate how they want them to participate. And if you're a CEO, you don't need to be piling beans on a plate.
Right.
You know, you go in, and if an organization isn't willing to take you for the skills and abilities you bring to the table, find one that will.
Okay, great. Good advice. Fabulous interview with John Dini with MPN. For more information about John and his company, please check out the show notes for this episode on our website. Thank you.